Hi, my name is Talia. Welcome to Talia Nerds Out. I'm not sure when I will actually drop this video. Today is St. Patrick's Day, hence all the green, hence why I'm drinking some Irish breakfast, although Plum Deluxe actually calls this fog cutter. But I had already recorded today a March Mystery Madness video, which was supposed to be short. It was not. So I am glad I split this one off. I'm going to have to be more creative about how I split my videos up because I can run long. So I will try to be more creative about that in the future. In this video, I'll be covering history books, some of the other books I'm reading. This shouldn't be terribly long. I say hopefully. I don't actually know how long I will run on. We will see. But my plan is the non-mystery books that I'm reading, which is a shorter list this month. But yeah, so I guess I should just go ahead and jump into it. Mention the Irish breakfast, which is yummy. Don't know when this video is dropping. We will see. If you're interested in March Mystery Madness, I have like a 40-something minute video on that. That is currently in the process of being edited. I mean, saved into an MP4. That is the extent of my editing. Or adding a postscript at the end because I inevitably forget something or say something wrong. Anyhow, I don't have many non-mystery books that I've finished since the last time I recorded. The one I did finish, though, was Mozart, A Life by Paul Johnson. I enjoy Paul Johnson books. I've only read, by read I mean listen to, because that's the only way that my library has Paul Johnson books. I don't actually own any of his books, even though I've put quite a few on my to-read to eventually pick up books. He has an interesting one that I want to read on, it's like the relationship between, I think it was Pope John Paul II and, was it John F. Kennedy? No, it was, fiddlesticks. Brain. This is going to drive me, I can see his face in my head. The one who was an actor. Why can't I remember his name? Tear Down This Wall. Y'all are shouting at me. Why can't I remember his name right now? We're going to blame the brain fog, okay? Because that's the inconvenient scapegoat in this circumstance. Oh, that's going to bother me because I totally know who that is. I'm running through like every president name except the one I know who it is. It'll hit me at some point. Anyhow, that has nothing to do with what I'm currently reading or what I just finished reading. But it's tough. I can't do it. I had to look it up, guys, because it's seriously going to bother me. Why can't I remember? And it's so easy. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I'm going to feel so stupid when I see this. Ronald Reagan. Duh. I swear, sometimes I have no brain. Okay, guys, so apparently I cannot pull Ronald Reagan's name out of my brain. Moving on. To Mozart. Mozart, A Life by Paul Johnson. I can't remember when this was written. I think he started writing in the 1920s. But this was very interesting. I didn't know a lot about Mozart's personal life. Didn't realize how much Amadeus got wrong. Mozart was an interesting man. He really was. Even though he could be temperamental, he seemed to be an easier person to get along with than I ever have had the impression of. Just a lot of really interesting things about his life, about his time, his relationship with his father, about his life as a child prodigy. I didn't know the connection he had with England. He was very fond of England, which I had never heard. Um, there was a lot of technical music stuff that went over my head. Also, because I'm not mute. I'm not. I can't play music. I don't. I listen to music, but I'm not a musician. So some of that stuff went over my head. And when he started naming off like songs that Mozart had composed by their numbers, yeah, I zoned. For that part, I didn't know that which songs he was talking about. So, but if you have the ability to listen to the music he's talking about while you're reading the book, I think you could get a lot out of it. And even with not knowing which songs he was talking about, I still got good a good bit out of the book. Um, yeah, I thought it was interesting the piece that Mozart had with his death. He had very much prepared himself for death to the point where he he had a lot of like he had a lot of peace about it. He almost looked to it with joy, like, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for what's beyond, which it's an old practice in Memento Mori. Remember your death, and that's how he was trying to remember his death as he lived, preparing himself for that time period. Um, Especially after his father died, who had been a very big part of his life, a very controlling part of his life. Um, and his father hadn't taken very well to him getting married. I guess because it was another influence in his life. I don't know. His father was an interesting character. But yeah, I do recommend Mozart Life. I enjoyed it, even though I'm not musical. And I wish my library had more Paul Johnsons available. The other Paul Johnson I did listen to was his book on heroes, and he covers heroes of all different time periods. He starts with biblical heroes through to heroes of the modern day. What would have been modern day, I guess, in the time that he was writing it. He did cover Churchill. Margaret Thatcher. So think of biblical time to like Margaret Thatcher and Winston Churchill. So quite a period of time. Completely subjective in how he chooses people. Um, I don't think, even though he made mention of her, I don't think he put Mother Teresa in there. He said that he felt that she deserved a different category. All of with like he's like that's for like saints, holy people. That's a different category. Even though he put Pope John Paul in for a completely different reason. But yeah, it was both of those books by Paul Johnson I really enjoyed. Probably enjoyed Hero slightly more because there was less musical stuff that went over my head. If you haven't read Heroes by Paul Johnson, highly recommend. Currently reading. A lot of my current reading that's not mystery is nonfiction. Let me cover the mystery first. I mean, not mystery. The fiction first. The only fiction I'm actively reading right now that's not a mystery. Well, I actually am actively reading this, but I just haven't read it since. Okay, I might have read it once or twice since the last time I recorded. Return the King by Tolkien. I haven't had the ability to focus. Weather's been affecting me a lot. So this requires a little bit more focus than some of my other books. So this hasn't been getting as much love as it should. I really want to enjoy every minute of Merry and Pippin in this book because they have some really great things happen to them. So, or really fun thing. Not fun. None of this book is technically none of this book has anything happen to any of the characters that is fun, but it's a great read. With Mary, when you're coming to the Merry and Pippin parts in this book, and I really don't want to miss any of it by not being completely there mentally. Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. I'm surprised it's taken me this long to read through it, because usually I make my way through Pride and Prejudice a lot faster than this. I blame March Mystery Madness for this, but yes. Maybe it's this cover that I don't care for. Maybe that's to blame. But I will get through Pride and Prejudice. I love this book. Even though Lizzie actually isn't... Like, Lizzie is funny, but I don't know that she would be my favorite Austen heroine to like spend time with. I have a fond list for Catherine Morland. I do like Eleanor. Marianne Dashwood drives me nuts. It's her over, like, Marianne Dashwood. I swear, that girl. She just lets her emotions run wild. That's probably why I like Eleanor so much. She has them, but she keeps them firmly in check. I like Eleanor. I also, Fanny doesn't get enough credit. Fanny Price. I like Fanny Price. She might not be my number one Austen heroine, but I like Fanny Price. My number one Austen heroine, gosh, it's probably a three-way tie. Even though I do like Elizabeth Bennet, I'm going to say the unpopular thing and not go with Elizabeth Bennet in that three-way tie. But it's Catherine Morland. She's just so naive and sweet and stuff. And Eleanor Dashwood. And even though I like Fanny Price, she's not in that top three. I would put rather Anne Elliot. I love Anne Elliot. Anne Elliot, if I was to put a number one, and she would probably knock Catherine Morland down. I might have to have a two-way if I had to knock someone down. It would probably be Eleanor and Anne, who actually have similar personalities, I think, in some ways. I think in a lot of ways, Eleanor is a little bit more decided than Anne. Anne is a lot more, I think she's had a lot more disappointment in her life. She's quite a bit older than Eleanor, which could have something to do with it. But, yes. So I do like Elizabeth. I love this book. It's so funny. But Elizabeth, not as bad as Marianne Dashwood, but sometimes Elizabeth, I'm just like, you are so judgmental. Back it off, girl. You are so decided in your opinions that you refuse to see past what your biases are. Now she's less insufferable than Marianne Dashwood. Marianne can be cutting, like almost unreasonably. No, it is. Now she's very easily led, by if someone else agrees with her a lot, and she develops an attachment to them. She can be very easily led into excess of her sensibility, of her emotionality. And I feel like she could be cruel toward Colonel Brandon the way she talks about him. I really, he didn't deserve a lot of the things that she said about him. And Marianne, she's a bit selfish. I actually would have to put Marianne below, even though she's not my favorite character. I would have to put her below Emma. Because Marianne means well, but Marianne, she can be harsh. Emma really does mean well. She doesn't have the same level of selfishness as Marianne. So Emma does sneak ahead of Marianne for me. So yeah, for the order of the Austen heroines that you never asked for, it would be a two-way tie, Anne Elliot and Eleanor Dashwood. Then you'd have another two-way tie of Fanny Price and Catherine Morland. Then there's Lizzie. Wow, I'm going to make some Lizzie fans really annoyed. After Lizzie would be Emma. And then, even though Marianne shares the story with Eleanor Dashwood, so she does get her own. Marianne Dashwood is definitely after Eleanor. Maybe some other time I'll give you my heroes in order. I have to think about them a little bit more. But that's going to be, if I do it at all, it'll be another video. Let me know if you want me to do that. Maybe you don't. Ow! Sorry, I leaned on my leg wrong and my nerve didn't like it. So, nonfiction things that I am reading. I'll run through some of these quickly because honestly I don't know that anyone but me will care about some of them. One is Broken, Living with EDS and Other Chronic Conditions. It's nice to see, looking at these people talk about things that they could see looking back. I can look back and see where I showed manifestations of EDS without knowing I had EDS back in childhood. So, it's interesting. But me related, I started an audiobook from Libby because they didn't have a physical form, which is sad because I think that this book would have benefited from physical form because I think it needs pictures. Leonardo da Vinci by Walter Isaacson. Now, I do have a fairly good idea of a fair amount of Leonardo da Vinci's paintings and drawings, but I will probably have to look up some of them online. Like I said, my dad, or I probably said in the other video, my dad is a self-taught artist. He does oil paints on during the weekend, during his days off. But just for his own amusement and to decorate our house. I don't have one in here currently. He's working on one for my room. But, where was I going with that? So I am familiar with Da Vinci's work, and I can sometimes picture his work in my head. Particularly since my dad did, really looked into Da Vinci, and he did a version of Mona Lisa on wood, the way Da Vinci did. He really researched it. He researched glazes to try to get as close to the glaze that Da Vinci did without having it brown. Because a lot of times Da Vinci really experimented with things, and sometimes it didn't work out so well for him. So some of his paintings didn't last because of his experimentation, glazes he would choose to use, whatever. He was an artist, but really he was an experimenter. Once he got through with an idea, he bounced on to the next idea. And that's what this book does go into. It's working a lot off of his journals, which he has a ton of, and we're really lucky to have them. So it's working a lot off of his journals. So we're not just going to be covering him as an artist, but him as an engineer, him as just a student of life, of nature, of everything. So I'm looking forward to that. I do have to laugh, though. The author took a bit of a jab at Freud because Freud took a dream that Da Vinci had mentioned, and he psychoanalyzed it. And the author's like, yeah, don't think that really was accurate. Most people don't. But I think it probably says more about Freud than it does about Da Vinci. And that just made me laugh, because I do think a lot of what Freud says has more to do with Freud than anything else. I think that Freud might have needed to look inward a little bit. But yes, I am also reading, and I actually am reading this one. This one was available in physical form. I kind of wish it had been an audio, because I like listening to audiobooks while I'm knitting or doing other things with my hands. But it's The Ship of Dreams by Gareth Russell, and this is about the Titanic. I had it on hold, and finally someone was done reading it, so now I got to read it. I have one other book by Gareth Russell. I haven't read it yet. She wrote a book called Young and Damned and Fair, and it's about Catherine Howard, who, if you aren't aware, she is, let's see, you had Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, you had Jane. Jane? Yeah, Jane. And then Catherine Howard. So, wife number 4. Am I correct? Am I missing someone? I don't think so. I don't think so. He did only have 5 wives. Only. Yeah, so she was number 4. She was the one before his last wife also Catherine Parr. But this one's about Catherine Howard. Haven't read it yet. Never been particularly interested in Catherine Howard, but I wanted to read something individual in each of the wives, and I need to give Catherine Howard her due as well. But the Gareth Russell book that I currently have from the library is Ship of Dreams on the Titanic. I don't know a whole lot about the Titanic, and this is doing what I always love it when history books do this, kind of what the Betsy Ross book did, which is it doesn't just focus on the titular topic. So like the Betsy Ross book didn't just focus on Betsy alone. It dealt with history of Quaker in America. It dealt with trade in America. It dealt with the Revolutionary War around, and dealing with trade and Quaker and all this other kind of stuff. And then life after the Revolutionary War for Betsy, for trades, for Quakers, everything like that, and leading to Civil War. Now, if you're interested in Betsy Ross' book, I mentioned in previous booktube, but it's also, if you're just watching me for the first time, the Betsy Ross book was called Betsy Ross, The Making of America, just in case you're curious. Don't remember who wrote it. But The Ship of Dreams by Gareth Russell is on the Titanic. It does a similar thing. It doesn't just cover the Titanic. It covers England and Ireland during that period, because I hadn't realized it, but I guess that the Titanic was an English venture. It was built with American money, and it sounds like it was built in Ireland, but in Northern Ireland, in a town that was very pro-British. Actually, you apparently had a split in the town where the Catholics had this little area, but they were in the process of really trying to kick the Catholics out. They, the shipyard that was building the Titanic had, I can't remember if it was a couple years before, a couple months before, had fired a huge amount of Catholic workers for being Catholic. And actually, apparently, because of that, when some Irish, not refugees, that's not the word I'm looking for, immigrants to America wanted a street in San Francisco named after the city, I think it was Belfast. No, it wasn't Belfast. I can't remember right now. When they wanted the street named after this particular town in Ireland, the leaders in San Francisco said no because of the religious bigotry of firing all those Catholics for no reason except their faith. So I thought that was interesting. Just a little bit that you don't know. That it's making me want to read another book I have, and I am actually going to get up for this. Let's see, where are we? Is this it? Of course, I'm not going to find it right away. I might have to call it quits and not grab it. Ah, here it is. Okay. So this is The King and the Catholics. It's England, Ireland, Fight for Religious Freedom, 1780 to 1829. This is by another famous author. I do need to read this at some point. Antonia Fraser. I've read at least one of her other books. Well, I need to read her one on Marie Antoinette. I don't know where I got this from, because it says Bound Gallery, or Bound Galley, not for sale. So I have no idea. I must have got this at a library sale or something. But what I'm reading currently in The Ship of Dreams by Gareth Russell is making me think of this book, reminding me I need to read it. And it looks like, for one thing, yay, a history book with decent-sized print. And it's not terribly long. So I might have to read this sooner rather than later. Okay. But yeah, Ship of Dreams is good so far. Now I'm cold. Okay. Probably get hot again in a second, because, you know. Alright. Then, other things I need to continue reading that I said I was going to read last time, but I haven't gotten around to really. I need to finish Wars of the Roses by Dan Jones. I need to... I'm almost 30% through, I think, for Down Among the Dead Men by Michelle Williams, which is about being a mortuary technician in England. I'm not sure when it's set, but it's interesting. Need to finish reading Maids, Wives, and Widows, which I'm, again, about 30% through. And this is about, I think this is set during Elizabethan through, I don't think it's Elizabethan. It's at least Elizabethan era, maybe a bit later. And talks about women's lives during that time period. And then 3 ways that women generally could be classified, which was as maids, wives, or widows. I don't know if they classify nuns as maids or wives because, you know, nuns consider themselves married to Christ. Although, again, I don't know if this is post-Church of England, which it is, how many nuns there are, because I don't know a whole lot about the Church of England, particularly during that time period. There might have been still the reaction against popery, as they would call it. I still need to start and finish Cleopatra, which was my draw for last time. And because I'm probably running long, I'm going to do my spins to determine my next 2 reads, even though I really don't need to spin because I have enough reads, but, you know, I don't have self-control. Our first one is a TBR spin. Camilla. Oh, that is... I want to say this is by the same... I think this is a Frances Burney book. I'll tell you next time what... but I'm pretty sure this is by Frances Burney. And then the other spin for English history. King Stephen. I feel like I read something in King Stephen recently. If I did, I will just pick another one later. But yes, King Stephen, which works very well with the fact that I have a Brother Cadfael I need to read, which is set during that time period. I don't know what time period Cadfael ends in because I haven't made my way through the whole series. So yes, those are the books I have read, I am reading, and the ones I will be reading. Thank you very much for joining me for this mystery, etc. booktube. Bleh. If you are interested in my other podcast, where I talk too long with my mom about knitting and other things, I think I have a link. I know I have a link below my subscriptions. I might also have a link in the description box. My knitting podcast is Pen, Hook, and Needles Podcast, and we've been running for almost 10 years. But thank you very much for joining me today. Hope that you have a very blessed day, and I will see you next time. Bye.